Those of you from work will recognize this as my executive meeting outfit. Thanks to everyone for coming. This is great crowd out here, and check the stage. It's weight bearing, so we're good. I'm just sort of speak on behalf of myself and my three brothers, and we did get together the other night and had a couple beers and thought of some ideas and some memories and some thoughts. So I've tried to capture some of that. You know, I think a lot of what my dad was about has been said already, and so it's going to be a repeat, which is good. It's good that our stories line up. And I want to mention too that the slideshow you're going to see at the end, that was put together by Corey, and I think Adam helped him, and Mike, and that's really good too. So I think there's a lot in there that's going to cover what I would say. But we just want to share a little bit about what it was like to be one of Tom's sons. So, you know, the first thing I could think of was that, you know, first thing that comes to mind is supportive. Dad, as has been mentioned, loved watching us play sports. You know, and it wasn't always easy because I was a goalie and we played outdoors, and that guy would come to every game and most practices and stand behind the goal where I was. And they didn't have, it was a snowbank. He would stand there and watch every game, and he never said anything. He would just watch. But it was good to know he's there. And if you had a 7 a.m. hockey game outside of town, he'd wake you up at 5:30, and somehow bacon and eggs are already made. That man loved his eggs. He was also a big supporter of Kodiak football, and there was at least one Catholic boy on the team for 11 consecutive years. And after that, he loved to watch the Buckeyes play when Corey and Aaron coached. Corey tells a story that even he was once on a basketball team and he was just a backup player. And still, Dad would come to every game, knowing Corey would likely never see the court. But he'd still come and watch, and he'd come to some practices too. Aaron was telling, and I don't know if it was Adam too, but they had a free press route. And every Saturday morning, you know, they had the big paper. And these guys said, you know, they'd get up early to go do their papers. And pretty much every time, Dad had gotten up already, put all the flyers and comics in for you, loaded up the bags, and then he'd go do the papers with you. So, I don't know if he wanted money or what he wanted, but he was very supportive. But you know, the great thing with the sports was I can never remember him criticizing once. And with school and with our jobs and anything, I've already haven't been able to do this with my kids, but I mean, that guy went through, and none of us could think of a single instance where he criticized and said, you know, should have done that different, or why are you doing this? It was always, whatever you want to do. When after 6-7 years of playing hockey, I said, I don't want to play hockey anymore. No, it's fine. No problem. You know, he's probably glad to have his toes back. So, again, the second thing is he was very creative. And it's been mentioned too, you know, everything became a game. We didn't just go for walks on the, you know, Grand Beach Provincial Forest ski trails. We went on the Grizzly Adams Trail, past giant rocks and tiger pits, and it was unbelievable. The whole thing was always exciting. Or we'd go for a walk sometimes in the evening. This was our favorite. We'd wear dark clothing, and he'd play a game he learned with us in the military where he'd walk and he'd yell, hit it! And we'd all he'd hide his eyes, and we'd have 10 seconds to hide in the bush, and then he'd come and find you, and we'd be snickering under a log or something. You know, if you were on the beach, you're sitting there on the beach, he wouldn't just sit back and do nothing. He would, you know, create something like a rock scavenger hunt. There'd be a prize for everything from roundest rock to blackest rock to whitest rock to best rock found by a girl named Rochelle. And even in the winter, we would play cottage games. We would, our favorite game to play was, let's go lie in bed. We had bunk beds, so there'd be, somehow the four of us would get in there at bedtime, and we'd play, let's think of 20 things we're going to do at the cottage this summer. And usually by the time we got to 17, he was snoring. We'd have to get my mom to come and get him out of bed. I remember making a board game once. We made a board game about, you know, it's like a snakes and ladders thing, and you have to roll the dice and get to the cottage. So that was good. Every once in a while, he'd reach back and try to hit us just to make it real, like the real draft. Adam told me a story that when he was at the cottage, he was sort sort of in this younger group of kids. Aaron was kind of the last one to make the tail end of the cool group of kids at the cottage, this group of peers, and Adam kind of had no one, and my dad would come out, and he would make, well, he's got friends now, don't worry. I'm not saying he's in damage. But anyways, my dad would come out for his vacation. He'd spend Adam said every day he would take him out and do something with him and convince him the whole time this was way more fun than whatever Aaron and everyone was doing. And of course, many of you know about the 25, I think it's more than 25-year tradition of the Bel Air Superstars Dad started, and me and my brothers have carried on, and it's just, I think it's a real special time for the guys who come, and he knew what it was to have tradition and to have friends, and it's sort of a good mix of both. I remember my brothers would tell me, and I wasn't part of this, but one year he even organized the Kids Superstars, which he rigged so that Rose Taylor could win. He also loved trivia games. His favorite show was Jeopardy, and if you look on your way out, there's a game he made called Guesstimation, which is a lot of fun, and I mean, he did that low tech. We're talking library books and pens and paper and thousands of questions, and he had it published. But he just loved trivia. You know, even a few years after he had a, just terrible stroke, he could never tell you what he had for lunch, but he could tell you the birth weight of a blue whale. Another thing, he was always optimistic. He always made the best of everything. He always saw the best in everyone. When we were growing up, as you can imagine, the grocery budget would get stretched from time to time. And I don't think there was a lot of money around, but the man loved to golf, and he found a way. He used to go and get his $150 golf membership at Victoria Beach every summer, and that dude would be there before it opened, and I mean, he would be home before we'd wake up. He'd done 18 holes, and he taught us how to golf. He always said, there's over a mile of string in that ball. The easier you hit it, the further it goes. He'd always say that. And you'll see out there we brought his one iron. He was the only guy who hit a one iron. He always told the joke about the guy golfing on the golf course, and it started lightning, and the marshal man said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, don't worry, not even God can hit a one iron." So the other thing that came to our mind is that I think my dad acted to a father, as a lot of us, to a lot of people besides the four of us. I could think of friends I had. I think we all had friends that he acted like that. I think some of our friends were afraid of him in a way they maybe weren't afraid of their own fathers. But he always had respect. Tony the other night, we were at the cottage, he was telling the story that, Adam and Tony come to my dad, and, "Hey Dad, Tony's parents are moving to Charleswood. Can you stay with us for a few months?" "Absolutely!" was my dad's response, and 3 years later, Tony moved out. So he's one of the honoraries. So above all, Dad always kept a sense of humor. One of the great stories is Adam and Dad were out golfing, and there's this kind of rowdy drunk group behind them, the guys, and they kept hitting up on them and stuff. So finally, they're standing there waiting to tee off, or to hit their second shot, I guess, and a ball rolls up, kind of came and rolled and bounced up to them, and Dad goes, "Adam, lie on the ground and shake." So Adam lays on the ground, and he's like this. My dad's giving him CPR. And those guys, he said they did. They left the course and they took off with their cock. Stuff like that. Really sick stuff. But it was right till the end. He always kept a sense of humor, positive attitude, rarely if ever complaining, always asking how everyone else was doing. He always, I'd go over, "How's Naomi doing? How's Eric doing? How's Corey?" And always concerned with Adam. "How's Adam?" And I love that kid. I remember visiting him in the hospital the day after he had his lower leg amputated, and coming in, and so the nurse comes in. "Oh, hi, how are you today, Tom?" "Oh, good. So, let's see, which leg was it that's amputated?" He goes, "It's the one that's missing." He loved that joke. He used it all the time. He had a quick wit and would go to great lengths for a laugh, but it was never at someone else's expense, which is hard to do. And as he told me and Daryl Kitson, sarcasm is the lowest form of humor, but we didn't listen. So, Dad worked hard for us, played hard with us, made sure we never doubted that he would love us no matter what. We will do our best to follow his example. Thanks.